Welcome to Certain Point of View, your first step into a much nerdier world. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. Just go to certainpov.com. And now, your hosts, Ben Milton and Addy Thomas.
Hey Nerf Herders, I'm Addy Thomas.
And I am Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Certain Point of View. We're going to talk about just a general roundup of what's coming up in 2017. Usually we don't like necessarily doing episodes like this, but we're doing it as, just a little extra episode because there's a lot of little bit pieces of news all over the place about different things that are coming up this year and next year, and we want to talk about it. We do have things that we think are kind of interesting versions of, how to deal with some of these issues. Before we get to that, though, Ben, can you tell us a little bit about Patreon?
Yeah, Matt, do you realize we are a buck away from reaching our first major goal?
Are we really?
We are. We are $1. We are $1 a show away from reaching our first major goal.
Do we have a prize for caller number 10?
We should. We totally should. I'm so excited about this. Look, it's not a big goal. It's $25 an episode that we're trying to make. We're at like $23.97 or something like that. We're a buck and a couple pennies away from reaching that goal. But listen, here's why it's a big deal, okay? It's not a lot of money. It's not setting you and I free from our jobs. We're not like retiring and living on Cabo telling you about our wonderful lifestyles.
None of us are doing a Scrooge McDuck dive into a vault of gold.
Not
of your
even
Patreon
close.
Giving.
Not even close. Not even close. But it does, it's kind of like the goal is to become Luke Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi, where he's all in black, he's got the cool black glove, and he's going to go fight Vader and Palpatine with the power of love. Like, that's where we want to get to. But we're not there yet. Right now, we're like stupid, whiny Luke on Tatooine.
I just have Love as a Battlefield stuck in my head right now.
Somebody needs to mix that. We need to get Case to do that. Case, you need to get on Premiere and mix that final fight scene to Love as a Battlefield. I bet it'll work perfectly. I guarantee that's what Lucas was listening to.
I can see it like with some of the that crazy the flingy that's going on with there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, completely. It's totally gonna work. But we're more like whiny Luke on Tatooine, just trying to get this thing started. And so this is this is our we got to get to Mos Eisley.
Yeah,
this is our first big goal. We got to get Aunt Beru.
I know we're just trying to get to the Sandcrawler right now.
We got to get R2. We kind of got Case, so we kind of got R2 already. Sorry, Case. But we got to figure this out. And it's growing, and so it's a big deal to me because I feel like, oh wow, there is something here. The last year of our work is starting to pay off. And if we keep doing what we're doing, continue to grow and continue to evolve and continue to put out good content, people will appreciate it and continue to support us. So thank you so much to all of you who are supporting us. If you're not supporting us, you're more than welcome. Check out our Patreon page. You can find it on our website at certainpov.com.
And we still appreciate you just being a listener, for free. This podcast, obviously, again, we'd love to make money through this podcast so we don't have to go to work doing other stuff that we don't really like doing because we'd rather talk nerd stuff and get paid for it. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure this podcast is provided for free to people. So, whether... we're fine with you not necessarily being part of our Patreon team. So there's no pressure, hard sell or anything like that. We would appreciate if you would share this podcast with other fellow nerds that you think would enjoy the conversations and that you have these conversations with already. So please just go to our website, certainpov.com, to not only share the podcast, to check out Patreon, but also just to join the conversation with us. We want to hear what you think. Sometimes, we're just blathering on about all these different topics. We'd love to hear your input as well. Creates maybe new ideas for new podcast episodes as well. We love
new shows.
Yeah, exactly. We've had some great interaction from a couple of people. In fact, one of our Patreon givers, John Lutz, we've had a couple episodes with him who even presented the defense of Batman versus Superman for us. So and has introduced us to other shows and everything as well. So all of that, again, you can check out our website, certainpov.com. Let's get into today's episode. So we're just kind of doing a little bit different. We're not going to really get necessarily in depth into any one particular franchise or story or whatever, or character. We're really just kind of looking at what's coming up in 2017
Are you drooling on yourself? You're so excited.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening across this table?
Yeah, that really
This
just
is
happened.
why I wish we were doing a video cast so people could have
Oh my
seen
God,
that.
that was bad. It was
You
really
looked at
bad.
me. You looked at me like, "Oh, please tell me he didn't see that." And I totally
I knew
did.
you saw it. I knew you
totally
saw it.
You were hoping I wasn't going to say anything, though.
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't.
Yeah,
but
I totally said something because that was hilarious.
it was bad. It was
gross.
bad. It was really gross.
Is that your microphone or is that mine?
Oh, this is my microphone.
Okay, I feel better about it. Go ahead, carry on
I
then.
just went down my shirt. It didn't hit the mic. You're good. Again. I have a windscreen in between here.
I feel
too.
like I'm like doing a podcast with Beethoven the dog.
Thanks. All right. So one of the things we're expecting in 2017, in terms of animated movies, we're expecting a sequel to Batman: Cape Crusaders. The first one was last year. Did you watch the Adam West, Burt Ward?
No, I never watched it.
Oh, I'm so disappointed in you. It was fun.
Yeah, it looked okay.
Yeah. Well, I just remember your one comment was they sound so old.
They sounded so old. In
You
that
thought
trailer.
Adam West sounded old. They had was it Lee Meriwether who
my God.
who played
I thought he was
Catwoman?
dead.
Oh my God, it was weird seeing her like animated in terms of like when she was like young and sexy, but sounding like a grandmother. It was like that was like a really old cat lady, not Catwoman anymore. That one was weird, but it was sort of fun. They made fun of like the really really serious takes on Batman,
Yeah.
so it was kind of fun.
We're getting
seeing
another
that.
one of these,
Yep.
assuming everybody lives long
Yeah,
enough to do it.
as long as they live long enough to do the voiceover. But it's coming. There's no release date for it, but that's coming out this year. And
I need to watch the first one.
And Two-Face
do
is
you
going
have
to be
it?
on it.
Do you have the first one?
No, I need a.
You don't own it?
No.
Oh, don't give me crap, man.
All right, well, we're going to have Two-Face voiced by William Shatner.
That's so appropriate.
It is,
for some
isn't it?
reason.
So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, I'll watch that.
But I will say that the most successful DC movie that's going to come up this year is going to be in February.
Okay.
It's another Batman movie, but it's the Lego Batman movie.
Oh, that looks amazing.
It does. It looks like a lot of fun. I know DC's taken a lot of flack for their really like grim, dark Batman and now Superman and Batman versus Superman. But there's something like I really do enjoy Batman as a comedy, and I know that's sacrilege as like a comics fan.
It's not though.
But there's a lot of people who want to distance themselves from like the Adam West Batman.
I don't get that at all.
I know.
I totally don't get that.
But it's part of Batman, and
It's a great part too.
And there's a ridiculousness to who Batman is. I don't understand why people are so like have such a tough time accepting that.
I think we want to take everything so seriously. We want to call this like high art, and we want to call this like it's worthy of being in popular culture and having important conversations. And like honestly, like you and I have fallen into that trap.
That's true.
Ourselves about how
taking it too seriously.
Yeah, about how how important this stuff is, and it's a religion, and yada yada.
That's true,
yada.
but there's nothing wrong. Like there's a place for comedy and tragedy.
Yes,
in both in mythology.
Yeah,
yeah,
completely.
I mean, like it's not like we've never talked about the Bible on this podcast, but like the Bible has funny stuff like a talking donkey. Like, I mean, if that doesn't prove that there is a sense of humor in mythology, I don't know what does.
That's true. That's a really good point. Yeah, so if there could be a talking donkey with Paul, the most serious dour bastard in the entire Bible, there's room for funny Batman. That's all I'm saying.
So that brings up an interesting discussion, though, with the direction of sort of DC's movies overall. Wonder Woman, we're starting to hear some rumors that all is not well in that camp, that they may have, it feels disjointed, which was sort of the issues, again, with other than Man of Steel. Man of Steel was consistent in tone. I'm not a fan of Man of Steel. I thought it was an awful movie, but I can't fault it for consistency, and it had consistency in its tone. Whereas Batman versus Superman was just all over the place with what it was trying to do. In many ways, yeah. And just not like just
an incoherent
flow.
story.
Yeah.
It had a lot of problems.
And Suicide Squad suffered from some similar issues.
Yeah,
it
did ultimately. I
Even
thought it was better.
enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it a lot more. I enjoyed it more than most people did, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there too.
But it still wasn't a great movie. It's early in the process to say this is in trouble. It's worrisome because the source who's giving us also was a source that warned us about BVS having these problems. So there's credibility there, but you're also still in the editing process.
Right, it's just so early.
It's so early. A lot can be fixed. You can, tighten things up with a couple reshoots of whatever, fix it wherever you need to, and make everything work out okay. I don't have a lot of faith in DC at this point, but I'm not also like hit the panic button and assuming that Wonder Woman is going to be another disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, look, let's face it. None of those movies that we mentioned were financial disasters.
They
true. All made crazy, crazy money.
Right.
The question that needs to be asked is how many times can you put out a subpar product before people go, you know what, you guys have just putting out garbage. I'm not going to come. I think they got probably another dozen films, bad films in them, before people will stop going to see a Batman, Superman. Or
you think
Wonder
they'll
Woman.
go that far with it? You think they'll be able to get that far with it?
There's no sign that anybody's not going to these things, man.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no slowing down on these. Like it's full steam ahead.
Yeah,
and I think that's what kind of is working against that group a little bit is they know that they're just printing money. And the producers are like, whatever. I mean, like Joel Schumacher's Batman made a ton of money. Yeah. It's the worst Batman film ever made, and you couldn't make a worse Batman movie. It still made profit.
Right.
It still made somebody millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah,
so, it did. There's not much of unless we stop going. It's like Michael Bay. Unless everybody in America just puts their foot down and says, fuck it, I'm not going to go see this guy's movies anymore. He's going to keep putting out crappy movies. So I'm not really, I don't have a lot of hope that it's going to get much better.
Yeah. I think what would be interesting is what they're looking at in terms of tone. Right now, and I think this is, like, Snyder is who I tend to square the focus on most of my critique of what DC is right now.
Right.
Because he's been a big part of those movies so far in the universe so far, and there's granted there's starting to be a shift towards Jeff Johns and John Berg, and we'll see what that produces. I think Snyder is in love with a particular period in DC, and there's a lot of comics fans who are in love with that period in DC comics, and that's Frank Miller and Alan
Moore.
Yeah, Alan Moore. They're in love with both of those particular authors, and they deserve a lot of the praise for that because they've put out some of the most iconic, some of the most famous, some of the must read comics of our era. However, I think that they need to start looking at a different, not necessarily a different era, honestly, and a different source material for the tone. I was looking at an interesting article about that showed like clips from the show Bible for Batman the Animated Series. And just the rules they had. They said we will not do anything about Batman's origin. Nothing about like this was the usher who was like at the theater for the day that the Waynes got shot. We're not gonna do anything about that origin. People know the origin. This character's been around for forever. Right. They know this character.
Right.
Let's understand this is the character. Humor needs to be derived from situations, but not slapstick. Everything, the voice of each character, each villain should be created from it. There's a lot of like great material, lots of concept art, all sorts of stuff. But what's fascinating is they didn't take that, like they didn't take the success of Batman the Animated Series and just blindly apply that philosophy onto the Superman animated series. We had Bruce Timm take a look at like, all right, what makes Superman an interesting character? And
nothing.
I'm inclined to agree with you for the most part, but I actually do enjoy Superman the Animated Series because they do, like, Brainiac is made into a much more personal character. A lot of the villains that kind of come out of different things that happen with Kryptonite and Lex Luthor is very interesting. Metallo is cool. They do a lot of interesting things, but they do things that are appropriate to that character. They understand each character's identity, and they did that with the Justice League series. They made each character distinct. They understood that this wasn't a formula to necessarily apply, but to find out what's the heart of each character. And Marvel, I think, has done that to an extent with their movies. I think that's this true secret to Marvel's success, not necessarily this idea of this universe that crosses over with each other, but the fact that these individual movies are trying to focus on who these characters are. And I think that's what DC needs to remind themselves, that that's more important than the crossover.
And Fox Studios, look at Age of Apocalypse.
Right.
Like, it's like this iconic comic book, but I mean that movie was garbage.
Right. Because they tried to do too much in it.
It was too much. It was a mess. It was disjointed. It was all the problems that Batman versus Superman had, just in a different movie.
Right.
Marvel is smart. Marvel Studios are smart. Like, they've learned from their mistakes, and they've made plenty along the way.
Yeah.
But they've pretty much learned from their mistakes, and they just keep putting out good movies. Not necessarily great movies, but good movies.
Well, and let's actually switch over to Marvel at this point. So we got we got a number of movies coming out. Okay. Let's start with Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh.
I have to say, I don't know if the thing that stands out to me every time I watch that trailer, other than the hug moment between him and Tony Stark, is the very beginning of the trailer when you have the four thugs. The guys with each of the masks.
The Avenger masks.
The guy in the Hulk masks makes me laugh so much.
Every time.
Because he's got this weird stance with his arms out and hanging, and I don't know what it is about that.
Yeah.
That just gets me every time. It looks fun.
It looks amazingly fun.
And that's something that it's surprising how serious the Spider-Man movies have been. Even the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are pretty depressing. Like, there's a lot of crying Tobey Maguire, in those movies. So it'll be interesting to see just sort of a fun Spidey adventure. I wonder, I have my hopes.
I think there'll be serious. I think there'll be some serious moments.
I'm sure there'll be serious moments and high stakes and everything like that. But I don't get the sense that we're gonna have emo weepy Peter Parker a whole lot in this movie.
I hope not.
Yeah,
I hope not.
I think this is a symptom. We were talking about Batman. We've seen his origin plenty of times. We don't need to see Uncle Ben die again a third time.
Which is great, and we know we're not getting that.
Right. We don't even have a guy playing Uncle Ben at this point.
Which is fantastic, because Marissa Tomei is all I need. Aunt May has never been hotter. If Aunt May needs a husband, Marissa, call me. Call me. I will be Spider-Man's new daddy all day long.
So continuing on with Marvel, this is my movie. I think that's going to be the best of the superhero movies this year.
Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and it's going to be Logan. Every release,
really?
Guardians would have been the one that normally I would have picked.
Yeah.
And I still think Guardians will be very strong. Guardians is also going to have to live up to some high expectations.
Here's how bad of a pizza coma I'm in right now. We just ate an entire pizza before we started this podcast. Here's how bad of a pizza coma I'm in. When you said Logan, my mind short-circuited on all the carbohydrates, and I thought you said Lobo. And I was like,
there's a Lobo movie?
There's a Lobo movie. I'm so excited. Two, what the hell are you talking about? Lobo? How is that going to beat everybody else? Maybe. I mean, Deadpool was great last year, but Lobo? I agree. Logan is I think Logan had, from what we've seen so far, has a great chance at legit Oscar nominations.
You think so?
Dude, you see the cinematography on that?
It looks so good.
It's beautiful.
It looks like the movie, and I enjoyed the last Wolverine movie. I like James Mangold's take on it. I think the extended cut really digged a little bit deeper into the character development. And that was a little short shifted in the theatrical cut. But this looks like the movie that I was expecting from him all along, because I like his remake of 3:10 to Yuma a lot.
So good.
I really, really like it, and this feels a lot like that, where it has legit character development. It has some dealing with some pretty dark circumstances.
This is not going to be
themes.
Spider-Man.
No, this is total opposite.
Yeah.
And supposedly it's Hugh Jackman's final outing as Wolverine as well.
I think we'll see him in a Deadpool movie.
I think so too. I that's what was going to be my next question. Do you think?
I think we'll see him in a Deadpool
He
movie.
has to show up.
He has to.
Because I would be fine even if he lets himself completely go and we see fat Wolverine on a couch.
Yeah.
Like, if that's all I need.
Or just Hugh Jackman. Just playing himself
Right.
would be the funniest thing ever. He just has to make a cameo.
Yeah, that's all we need.
We don't need
That's all
him
we
to
need.
do a team up.
He doesn't need to don the claws and leap out. We don't need
The hair and the
although we never did get a fastball special.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
All right, we'll move on from that one. So, also coming out next year, we just mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is coming out. So, this is going to be interesting. So, I've been hearing that Nebula has a little bit more of a bigger role in this movie.
Okay.
And she's actually going to be on the team as well. And so is Yondu.
Okay.
Apparently, Nebula also has a role in Infinity War. So it sounds like there might be a little bit of building towards Infinity War in this movie.
I feel like there has to be. Like, we're coming up on it. Like, we're in phase 3.
Right. And we have Thor 2 next year as well, which I feel like that's where we'll get a little bit more.
I think that's where we get the
chunk.
majority of the story. But I mean, like, every little bit at this stage is going to help.
Yeah.
They've cut Infinity War down from 2 movies to 1.
Right.
So you got to tell that story and wrap it up in an hour and a half, 2 hours at the most.
And we don't really know a whole lot about
there's not a
Thanos.
whole lot to tell at this point.
I'm afraid, and I've always felt that, like, Thanos, Darkseid, and Apocalypse, I know there are a lot of fans that really love those characters, but they're kind of
One-dimensional flat characters.
yeah, they're all kind of the same. They even look fairly similar. Apocalypse is the one that's a little bit more different than the other two, but not by much. Let's be perfectly honest. If you're not a comics fan and you saw those 3 images, you probably would think they're the same.
It's the same character, just different colors.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get enough development on Thanos, or
I don't know. Or do you
is he
need
going to
it?
be one dimensional?
Or do you
and
need
is
it?
it fine?
Yeah.
So
Is the story more about the heroes?
right.
And I think it is. I think in Marvel's movie universe, I think it is more about the heroes than it is about the villains. That's the way it's been pretty much throughout all their movies.
Right.
Like, that's been the knock, is that, there's not much to the villains. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. I think, like, for Thanos, he is what he is. He's a force of nature, and he's here to destroy the world. You just need to establish that. But can you tell, like after that, though, like, do you need an hour and a half to tell that story?
Right.
Like, I guess, I mean, there's a lot of heroes in that fight, so I guess maybe how does it work? I don't know. Like, it's a challenge to me how they're gonna do this, how they're gonna explain this fight, and how they're going to stage it. Because, like, it's one thing in the comic books where you can just, like, draw panels of, like, just chock full of heroes all, charging and whatever.
Right.
It's another thing in a movie to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't have quite the same.
Well, I mean, it can't last that long. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't last that
Oh,
long.
and the money for it is insane. If you were to actually fill it out like a comic splash page, it's
And I don't think, like, money's a problem at this point for them,
Yeah.
because they're just making billions of dollars off of every single one of these movies.
Right.
I mean, it's printing cash. I mean, they have the same problem that DC has, except for they're making better movies.
right.
I don't know. I don't know how they make this movie. I mean, I have a way that I think it needs to end, that I think they want it to end.
Well,
and I think it
tell us
will
about
end.
your theory.
So my theory, like, look, the Sony email leaks revealed that Marvel was in discussions with, is it Fox, for Spider-Man.
Well,
get
Sony
those
with
rights.
Spider-Man, but
so
yeah.
Sony and Spider-Man, yeah, to get those rights and make so, like, everybody was kind of, like, talking about, like, how does Marvel get some of these properties back?
Right.
Okay. And it was going, like, those discussions were going so well, in fact, that we got Spider-Man in Civil War, right? I think that I think what's going to happen is the reason that they've pared it down from a 2-movie story to a 1-movie story is basically you're going to reset the Marvel universe at the end of Infinity War. It's going to be so big, so changing of reality, that it's going to start bringing in some of these other characters. And I think we'll see the X-Men brought back to Marvel, and that all deals have been worked out behind the scenes to make that happen and to facilitate that. So we'll have, X-Men, Fantastic Four. They have a complete Marvel universe, and the studios have worked together to make that a reality
and just figured out the characters rather than necessarily
and figured out how to share the money and the characters and everything, and so that everybody wins. Because it's obvious, the Fantastic Four has just been an utter failure.
Yes,
utter failure. I mean, it's just been a disaster.
I'd be fine never seeing them on screen again.
Right. I mean, it's been so bad, so bad. Even for the Fantastic Four, it's been bad.
Yeah.
The X-Men, it's every other movie.
Yeah.
Has been good.
Yeah.
And the levels of good are debatable.
Right.
Some of them have been great. Some of them have been okay.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them have been bad. So, it's not like the other studios are having great success with these characters, whereas Marvel just seems to be knocking it out of the park just about every time they touch it. So, to be able to do some sort of revenue share where they can then get those characters back, I mean, that is just a nerd's wet dream.
Right.
Like Marvel having their own in control of their own characters again, and having X-Men versus Avengers. I mean, that would be amazing. And, you still have the Inhumans out there on, with S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think they're spinning that off to its own TV show now.
They're getting their own TV show, and they're getting the premiere. The first 2 episodes are going to be released as a movie in IMAX.
God damn, that sounds amazing. That just sounds unbelievable. It's probably my own fantasy, but I just get the feel get the feeling like it's just it's there. It's there for them to do. And that's the perfect event to do it. In the comic books, everybody pretty much dies. Adam Warlock brings everybody back.
Right.
Everybody dies fighting Thanos.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect time to reset your universe with new casting.
Spoiler, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Whatever. If you haven't read Infinity Wars by now, god damn it. Really? Really? It's online, I'm sure. You can find it somewhere. Head to a bookstore if you can find one. I'm sure it's there. I feel like it's the perfect time to recast and re-energize and reintroduce a whole new series, because it can be an ending for your cast, and then just recast and start telling your stories again. Start telling new stories. Don't tell the same old goddamn Phoenix story. Right. I don't want to see that ever again.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see Phoenix again, ever. But there's a lot of other great X-Men stories that you can tell.
Yeah,
and I think it's the perfect opportunity to do that.
That would be cool. I really hope you're right. I really hope you're right on this.
You don't, though. All right, so let's talk about because Peter Dinklage has recently been announced as having a role in that movie. Who do you think he's going to play?
I'm thinking he's like Uatu the Watcher, or like the Kree, Supreme Intelligence.
The Kree Supreme Intelligence makes sense because of his voice and sort of his gravitas.
Yeah.
But holy shit, how do you introduce that?
Yeah, I know, right?
Right? What?
Well, that's why I'm a little wary. I'll put this out here right now. I'm already a little wary of Infinity Wars.
Yeah,
I've never really been a huge believer in it. Thanos has never done a whole lot for me. You know,
like
the
purple?
whole
Yellow boots?
I mean, it's the same thing with Apocalypse. I was excited about what Apocalypse could be, but then that didn't really pan anywhere. But I've never been an Apocalypse fan. He's so those characters are so larger than life. Darkseid's never done anything for me as well. They just don't. They're just too. They're so big without having any real personal touch. That's what I appreciate about the Lantern stories, because while their threats are huge and cosmic and big on those levels, they tend to find a way to bring those themes to interact with their characters so well. But they have such a wide cast of lanterns to choose from now, because everybody from Earth is a lantern now. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Although it's cool that they've made other Earth lanterns for other Corps as well, but that's a whole other thing. But they all have very individual. They all have very specific personalities, distinct personalities, and distinct challenges as well. So all those conflicts kind of interact with them in a very interesting way. Whereas a lot of these, I think it's the same problem I have with a lot of big events that tend to happen in comics, or sometimes they're so big that you lose the personal stories. The stories that the events that I tend to like, House of M is very personal with those characters. Blackest Night is very personal with those characters. So you get to explore who they are
in these extreme big conditions, yeah.
Right, in these big moments, rather than like shying away from it, and it's just about the action, and it's just about, well, they just punched this thing, and all of a sudden Red Skull was like merged with Charles Xavier and took over this this giant robot, and he's now Onslaught or whatever, like that doesn't do a whole lot for me. Right. So it's just your next big bat of the week, really, just on steroids. It's
just steroided up. You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, who knows what they're going to do? I mean, they've been planning this thing for a long time. I'm sure they've thought about that.
Well, and I guess that's where I feel a little bit of hope from the Doctor Strange movie, since the Doctor Strange movie didn't end with just like punching or blowing up something that needed to be blown up. Like there was something a little bit more of a clever finish. So maybe there is something there that I just can't imagine what it is, and how they're going to beat Thanos or lose and somehow come out on top, whatever. I don't see a resolution. I have a hard time imagining a resolution that's going to be really satisfying for me in an Infinity War movie, to be perfectly honest.
It's hard to tell because we don't really know much about it.
Right.
I mean, they've given us so little. They've been teasing it forever, but we don't really have much.
But it's been the same tease over and over again.
Over and over again, right? Like, so I mean, like, that's why I think at this point, like, they need to really start telling some story over the next couple movies.
Yeah.
I think we will get. I know James Gunn has said like this isn't a Infinity Warrior, but this is more about the Guardians. I'm not buying that. Yeah. I'm not buying that.
And we know Thor 2 is going to have.
Thor 2, I think, is going to be nothing but.
Yeah.
But I think there's plenty of stuff going on behind the scenes that, even if you don't recognize it right away, probably by the time you see Thor 2, you're like, oh shit, like that ties into what's going on.
That being said, Thor 3, what I am excited about, I watched another movie by the same director, Taika Waititi. I watched his movie Hunt for the Wilder People.
Okay.
That movie is awesome.
Is it?
It is so much fun. Indie comedy, just this foster kid who's like, this is his last chance before going to juvie to spend time with his family out in the country. And he bonds really well with the mother, but the mother dies. The dad he doesn't really like connect with. But like they go, like he runs away. The foster dad finds him. But what happens is everyone thinks that he's abducted the kid. So, and that he's a pedophile.
Oh God, this is my nightmare.
I know, right? So they're like hunting these two throughout the wilderness, and it is just so much fun. It's an absolute fun movie, beautifully shot. I want to feel a whole lot like I don't like Thor 1 and 2 at all. I just don't like those movies. I have a whole lot more hope after seeing Hunt for the Wilder People.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. If they've given him enough like creative control and reins to do what it's all
dependent on the story. It really is all dependent on that story. What are they doing and why are they doing it?
But it'll be interesting if he can carry over his tone, because this guy's a comedy director. He's directed Hunt for the Wilder People, and he directed a mockumentary from last year, What We Do in the Shadows, about vampires. And I think he was one of the writers for Flight of the Conchords. I know he's connected with.
So he's clever.
Yeah, exactly. So
well, look, let's face it. Like the biggest laugh that Avengers 1 got was that scene where Hulk punches Thor.
That's true. So if he gets the buddy cop, like they've talked about it as a road trip in space.
Yeah.
So
between those two, I mean, comedy could ensue.
And supposedly Doctor Strange is going to have a bigger role than we anticipated.
Which is great. Which is great. I think it can be a lot of fun.
So Betty Cumberbatch and the Hulk and Thor.
Oh, it's going to be. It might be great. It might suck.
Yeah,
it's Thor. Really Who knows? Who knows? Like that one. I'm going in just low expectations and going to be pleasantly surprised. I guarantee it.
Well, so let's shift a little bit from the movies for now. Are
there any other DC movies?
Well, we talked Wonder Woman. Justice League is later this year as well. I just don't feel excited for it.
There's no reason to.
Yeah, I'm not interested in Steppenwolf. Come
on, Steppenwolf is not the big bad.
You think Darkseid's going to be the big bad right off the top?
Of course. Look, they told us that it was going to, in Batman versus Superman, it was going to be Batman versus Superman, Batman versus Superman, Batman versus Superman. And then, like, the last, like, couple months, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, and then also
Doomsday.
Hey, they're going to do the same garbage with this. Who the fuck wants to see fucking Steppenwolf? Right?
Know. Yeah, I know.
Like, come on.
That's
I'm not going to pay. I'm not paying $15 to see Steppenwolf. Stop. Just stop. Just come out and say it. Steppenwolf is a bad guy. They're going to have to deal with him, but he's not the big bad of the movie.
Yeah.
Just come out and say it. Ugh. We all know it. Who really believes Steppenwolf is going to be the big? I'll eat a shoe if Steppenwolf is the only big.
We need to save this highlight.
Highlight it. Put that out on the web. Whatever we got to do.
Ben's got to eat a shoe.
There's no way. There's no way.
Well, hold on. Let's talk logistics here for a second. How would you eat this shoe? The shoe, like, would put it in a stew?
Same way you eat an elephant, Addy. A bite at a time. I don't know. I don't know. What kind of shoe are we talking about? Like,
I don't know.
I don't either. Like, I'm not eating a real shoe. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not.
Wait, no, that's not fair. Integrity, man.
Integrity, man. Get out of here. Just get out of here. It was a nerd rant. I get a pass. And I'm not even stressed about it because there's no way. There's no way.
There's no way?
There's no way.
If I go to Goodwill and buy...
Fine, I'll eat a shoe. Okay. I'll eat a shoe. If I'm right, what are you going to do?
Oh, this is something. I'm not making any bold proclamations.
All of a sudden, you're fucking Scooby-Doo over there.
I don't have any confidence to make any bold proclamations about this movie.
Forget it.
Oh, really?
No,
you're just using that as a way out.
If you don't have skin in the game, there's no bet. That's how this works. You know that.
No.
Yeah,
this is how confident you are in this belief.
Don't try to back me in a corner on this, man. Like, you're already having to dress up like Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah, it's gonna have to. That's not being changed no matter what. I know that's set in stone.
No, now, so don't.
The only thing that can prevent that is my death.
And there's time. And there's time.
Oh, trust me, I've been eating very, very poorly.
I like the way you're going out, Addy. It's strong. It's a good effort. It's a good effort. What else do we got? All right, so what else?
So let's switch gears to TV a little bit. We'll end on Star Wars, but superhero TV. Okay. We've got 2 interesting things coming up. Actually 3, but we'll save the more interesting ones for later. Legion.
That's the most interesting one.
Oh, you think so?
Oh my goodness, I'm so hyped for this.
That's the one that's the biggest question mark. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be good.
For sure.
But it looks very different, and that's what I like about it.
Yes.
It doesn't feel superhero-y in any way.
Looks crazy. Yeah. It looks crazy.
What I've been enjoying, what they've been talking about is the whole idea of we don't know what's necessarily real or not with this character. And I think that's what's really kind of fascinating. Like we're seeing sort of a psychodrama, I guess is the best way to explain it. Yes. I don't know. Like, I really don't know.
I don't know.
Sci-fi.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
The graphics look incredible. The teasers that they've been playing totally work for me.
Yeah.
Totally work for me with, like, whole idea of like what like you're saying, what is reality? What's real, what's not real? Who are you?
Right.
I mean, this is going to be like right in our wheelhouse, man.
Yeah.
We are going to love this show.
Well, if it wasn't for the track record with the other shows though, that we're about to talk about, that would be the most anticipated thing for me this year after Star Wars.
Okay.
But Iron Fist and the Defenders, I'm so...
Oh, I don't count those as TV shows. I guess they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited for those, dude.
Yeah, I am too. I'm less excited about Iron Fist.
Yeah.
And there's only one reason, and I just got to see it. I got to see it. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I don't like the casting of Iron
really?
Fist. Yeah, I don't like who they cast as Danny Rand.
I feel like he looks like Danny Rand. Danny Rand's not like a super built dude.
I don't need a super built dude. I don't know. There's something about
He's still too skinny for you?
There's something about that dude, yeah, that just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. maybe once I see the actual show, it'll click.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm a little like, okay.
Yeah.
I know you absolutely loved Luke Cage, and I was like, it was good.
Right.
I have a feeling like that's going to be a similar
gonna be a
reaction
similar
where
thing.
you're going to be like,
Like
that
Rogue
was
One.
amazing. And I'm like, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Rogue One is another perfect example of you overreacting and loving something that wasn't quite so good.
All right, calm down.
I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
I hope I'm going to love it. But I've never been a huge Iron Fist fan.
Yeah.
Or Luke Cage fan, really, to be honest
That's
with
true.
you.
Yeah. Luke Cage was a little bit more, I felt like Luke Cage didn't really have like a particular prescribed template of where to go. There was a lot more freedom with it because there aren't really iconic runs for Luke Cage.
Right.
Whereas Iron Fist actually has a couple runs that have already that he's had that you can
Point
you
to
can look
and
to.
say, and these were like pinnacle moments, in
Right, for
Iron
this
Fist,
character, yeah. Even though it is fewer than most characters, he still has some distinct runs that you can look to and talk to, and that are acclaimed to some degree. So Iron Fist, and I've read the Matt Fraction run on Iron Fist, and I absolutely dug it. Like that was one that I was like issue after issue, every crossover that they had with that thing, like I was all about Immortal Iron Fist. Yeah, it's totally
getting fisted.
Yeah, I totally dug it.
All of a sudden you changed your vernacular. Okay.
So there's Iron Fist Defenders.
Yeah.
So we've also got some
This I'm hype about.
Yeah, and now what's interesting is there's one little tidbit that they talked about in the article on Entertainment Weekly. They have the cover shoot and everything with all of them. They've already said that their first meeting of all four of these characters
Is a fight 'em up.
is going to be them trying to fight out of a corridor at a particular building, and a building we've already visited too in one of these shows. And it's going to be the building where there was the giant pit in Daredevil season 2.
Oh, so we're skipping to the end.
Right. We're getting a chance to see what the deal is with that pit. So the Hand, whoever else
Is involved in this.
Yeah, I don't know what. Like, we still have. There's a lot of mystery behind Sigourney Weaver's character, other than we know she's a big bad. We do know that Kingpin is not going to be in this supposedly, but maybe he'll have a cameo.
But I'm sure his presence will be felt.
Yeah, in some way or another.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to his real, legit return.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
because he's definitely been the best thing about all
Bring
of these
him back
series.
for Punisher.
Yeah. Oh, that would be amazing. So, they're got a team. Their first meeting is a team up to fight out of a hallway. So, I mean, that apparently is like hallway fights are the signature move of these
so
shows.
Good. They're so good. I mean, I'm sure that won't be the first time all four of them have been together. That's just going to be the first time we see them, right?
I think that. Oh, you're talking about the very beginning of the show? Mm-hmm. No, I think the first time that they're all together, all four of them together.
Is the first episode? Like, that's how it started?
Oh, no, it's not going to be. No. It's not going to be how it starts off.
Oh.
But the first time that all four of them are actually together.
They're fighting out of that hallway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
That'll
I'm looking
be cool.
forward to it.
That'll be cool. I'm in. Yeah, I'm totally in just to see what they do.
Yeah.
I'm totally in just to see what they do. The action will be unbelievable. And so far, the storytelling in these shows have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. So good. So, yeah, bring it on. Defenders can't come. I mean, I know we'll take off. You and I are going to end up taking off
from
days
work.
and binge watch it again. I know we will.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For both of those shows.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be great. I think they're going to be great. And going back to Legion, I think that's probably going to be on my must-see TV list
I'm
of
with
things
you there.
that I watch.
I'm with you there. I'm starting to lose a little bit interest in the CW shows again. They're fine. They're popcorn shows. They're not really like.
There's not much to them.
Yeah, and they're like, I'm enjoying the Flash still. I'm enjoying Supergirl. Legends of Tomorrow is starting to lose me again, and Arrow's starting to lose me again.
How does that show? Like, that show's got to end, right?
I would hope so, but I don't get the sense that they will.
Oh no, because it's making tons of money.
Yeah, but this is supposed to be like, as far as the flashbacks are concerned, that's where it's got to stop.
Because you just stop doing flashbacks then.
I
and just
guess,
keep going.
which I think could help the show is stop doing flashbacks, but we'll see. That's one of those shows. Fortunately, it's not as bad as Gotham. I will never. It's not that far down by any means, but it's just not as compelling. It's kind of, I think they've worn out a lot of the freshness that they kind of had at first, and maybe that's a consequence of having so many of those shows. And now we've gotten to like E tier type characters, like Citizen Steel. Like really, who cares about a Citizen Steel? So yeah.
I don't even know who the hell that is.
Exactly. Yeah. I had to look them up.
Well, I also saw that they put Constantine as a cartoon.
Yeah, and that's gonna be on their website.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd absolutely watch that. I enjoyed Constantine for what it was. There was definitely room for improvement, and I think it's always kind of belonged. It was always one of those shows that seemed like it could really benefit from being with the CW. But I just said that maybe there was too many shows, so I don't know. Like, it's a tough thing because it's cool that they have their own universe and they cross over and they kind of have fun with their events, but they're also very limited because they can't bring certain characters in. And,
yeah, that's what's killing that universe.
Yeah.
Is that it is limited, and they're in that Batman's around, Superman's around,
right?
And they're just like, nope, can't play with those toys.
Yeah,
which
it's really weird.
in some ways, forces them to be more creative and not be lazy. And just have Superman and Batman showing up all the time. But then, on the same hand, it is weird that they're not there.
Yeah.
And not mentioned.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we'd all like to see them, honestly, in the movies more than some of the guys that we're seeing in the movies now. I'd like to see Grant Gustin as the Flash on the big screen.
Yeah, I especially since you're saying they can't play with those characters.
Yeah, why wouldn't you bring them into
so okay, you've accepted. Okay, well, it's a different universe.
Yeah.
Okay, well then let me play with the characters.
Yeah.
Don't say I can't play with the character. People can't tell the difference. That's
right.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
It's not like anybody's like, oh no, Lego Batman and Ben Affleck Batman.
Getting those confused. I don't know. I'm expecting Will Arnett's voice every time Ben Affleck speaks, and I don't get it. I'm confused. It just goes to show just how fucked up DC is. They just can't do anything right.
Warner Brothers, especially as well. It's not just DC as a comic house. It has. I think they've got their problems, but Warner Brothers seems really dysfunctional too. They
just don't get it.
Yeah,
they don't understand the property that they're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's ultimately what it is. They just don't get it. They don't get that type of storytelling.
Right. So, which is too bad.
Maybe they should go back to musicals.
All right, so here, of course, we are a Star Wars podcast, so
go on.
There's that. Star Wars Episode 8 coming out this year. Still don't have a title. Don't have a teaser.
Don't have
no
anything
trailer
on this except for a Woody.
Yeah, I know, right? But we do know, obviously, Carrie Fisher passed away recently, but we know that she filmed all her scenes.
Thank God.
There was also a lot of rumors.
We're talking about look. Episode 9 having problems because she was supposed to have this big role,
right?
And they're having to rewrite stuff now.
And I saw a rumor that that's where Luke and Leia were going to finally reunite. That they didn't, that they may not in Episode 8. It'll be interesting to see what they have to do. There was a news report saying that Lucasfilm was in talks with Carrie Fisher's estate about digitally recreating her. Fortunately, Lucasfilm has come out and said that they have absolutely no plans to do that.
Thank God.
Which, I don't have as much. I'm not a person who has too much of a problem with Grand Moff Tarkin's appearance in Rogue One. I actually rather enjoyed it once you get past sort of the weird look of
doesn't
a
quite
CG
look
character.
lifelike. Yeah,
we're not quite there, but we're getting closer and closer to it. But yeah, it seems there's something that's kind of icky about having Carrie Fisher,
even
CGI.
though it was her.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's something icky about that, thinking that they could do a whole movie with her in Episode 9.
I'm not okay with that.
So let me ask you. So, what do you think are we doing here? Are we gonna write a death for her in Episode 8, or are they gonna write her off in between the movies, or do they recast her for episode?
You don't recast her. I think they also said that they're not recasting.
They just said there are no plans to digitally recreate her. That's all they said in the press release.
I don't think you can recast her.
Stevie
not
Nicks?
yet. Stevie Nicks, get the hell out of here. Get the hell, maybe.
You can see it, can't you?
A little bit, yeah.
Not just a little bit. Even older Stevie Nicks doesn't look that different.
No, she does. That could work.
They're almost the same height.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you might be onto something. You actually might be onto something. I had fun, like up until that moment you've said that. I was like, "There's no possible. Who would you possibly cast?" Or like it would Stevie Nicks maybe.
Yeah, I have to give credit to Jason Robertson.
Oh, is that who called that out? God, I hate him. Yeah, that could work. I don't think they will. I don't think they could get Stevie.
But you're not going to be able to stop thinking about.
I don't think they can get Stevie sober enough at this point to do it.
Well, how did they get Leia sober? Like Carrie Fisher sober?
She's been sober for years.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair.
She's been sober for years. You're not going to get Stevie sober by September. I don't know how they're going to do it. Because I don't know what role. Obviously, she was supposed to play a big role.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like how it depends on how they rewrite that, how they write that off. Like,
let me ask you this: so, like, is at some point do you think we have to recast Leia as someone else down the road? Like with all these crossover movies that are about to happen, like Leia may pop up somewhere. What do we do? Do we recast someone or like? What do we do? Pat. Let's forget episode 8 and 9 for a moment.
Okay. Well, that's really that's the biggest problem though. Is 8 and 9. The rest of it you can work around.
Right.
The rest of it
because we have a young Han Solo and a young Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, you can totally recast a young Princess Leia. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
That's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But 8 and 9 is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like. And you and I have talked about this a little bit about how like we think that maybe the plan was like to really investigate that idea of there is another, and that other is Leia,
right?
And that she's the one who kind of then brings balance back for Luke, depending on how crazy he gets in the next movie or two,
right?
And if that was the case, if that was the story they were planning on telling, her dying really fucks that up bad.
Yeah.
Like really bad. Like how do you like
they gotta really
because you already shot this movie. Like you're in editing mode right now. You're not like you're in like and we're gonna put out a trailer soon mode.
Right.
Like you can't really change that story on a dime if you've already got 2/3 of it in the can.
Yeah.
Because we've already got the first story where we know Luke's gone missing. Second story is who knows what Luke's doing. If Luke's gone crazy,
right,
and Leia's the one who's going to bring him back, now you got to rewrite a third act for that next movie without Leia.
Right.
Do you use Rey? Do you use Kylo? Do you use? I mean, who do you use?
Yeah.
Chewie? Like, how do you bring everybody back? Like, how do you bring it back? And that makes sense and fits the narrative of a Star Wars story. I mean, her death is a big problem. A big problem. Not only is it a tragedy for the Star Wars universe, but it's a big problem for the writers, depending on where they were taking this story.
Yeah.
It's tough. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't know what they're going to do because I don't know what they have planned. But anyway, you kind of like look at where they were, like where everything is projecting at. It's not good.
So do you think they at this point they absolutely have to kind of write her off in episode 8?
Yeah,
because it'd be too cheap to do it in between the two movies.
I mean, it depends on how bad you need her all the way up to the end of episode 8.
Right.
How bad do you need that? Like, how much reshooting can you do and still keep a coherent story?
Right.
Because and have it lead into an episode 9 that makes that tells the story you want. You got to figure out how it's going to end now.
Yeah.
If she was a big point of how this thing is going to end, you got to rework it kind of you got to reverse engineer it to the point where, okay, at this point, we no longer need Princess Leia.
Right.
We can tell this story without Princess Leia. She can die at this point, but we need her until then.
Yeah.
And then, at that, I don't know, halfway through episode 8 to the end of episode 8.
So, we kind of like everyone went into just about everyone went into Force Awakens knowing that Han was going to die. Do you think there is that expectation for episode 8? That Leia is going to die?
Oh, that Leia's going to die? I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, you're not surprised, right?
Yeah.
But they haven't shot it.
Right.
It's not like they shot it.
Yeah.
So
you could totally reuse some other footage.
Yeah, it would have to be like, and this is the ship she's on, and then boom, it blows up. You're like, oh, shit.
Just use one of her alternate takes from when Han died.
Right. It's weird. It's going to be weird. Like, I mean, honestly, the easiest thing to do is write her off in between movies.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to do it.
But it's also the cheap. It feels the cheapest.
Yeah,
thing
but what are you gonna do? You don't have footage for her to. You don't have like that send off footage like Harrison Ford did when he dies.
Right.
You know, like you don't have that. Like you don't have her being able to act out a death scene.
Yeah.
Because there was no plans of her being in a death scene. You don't have that anywhere.
Yeah, well, and that's why I pitched like the whole like she's on something, a ship or a planet that gets destroyed.
Which feels just as cheap.
Yeah.
Like that feels just as cheap. Like, okay, I guess. But you still have to get her onto that planet. You still have to figure out why she's there.
That's true.
And tell that story and explain it and then have everybody react to it and then move on.
Right.
Like it's tough. Like it is really, really screws up these movies in a bad way. In a bad way.
Absolutely.
I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
These movies may not be good as a result, honestly.
Yeah.
It may have really screwed them.
Well, let's hope that they can figure out something. And, you know, was it Colin Trevorrow is the guy who's directing episode 9? That's the guy who directed...
He's probably just suicidal right now.
He's the guy who directed Jurassic World. And I think the guy who's writing it is...
probably on massive antidepressants.
Toy Story 3 guy. I can't remember his name.
Is that the really depressing one?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's so good.
I know, but oh god,
you didn't cry a little when
cried
they
like
all
a girl,
hands
like a girl,
into the trash.
like a girl, like a tiny weeping. We took both my kids to a cemetery for the first time.
Oh,
and just walked them around at the cemetery.
Why?
We were on a walk, right?
You wanted to get them familiar with death?
I mean, that was the justification we used later. It was just a walk. It was a walk, and we were just kind of walking around, and we were like, I just don't want to go on this path any further. We're at a cemetery. Let's just walk here.
Oh God! I thought that was going a much darker direction. I don't want to be.
I don't want to walk.
I can't
anymore.
go down this path with you,
Just
Anakin.
dig a hole. Dig a hole. You were like a son to me. No, So we ended up walking around a graveyard, and it was like halfway through the graveyard, and we're like, well, this probably was dumb. Like these kids don't really. They're like asking questions, like, well, who is this? And we're like, I don't know, but they're dead. And they're like, well, how old was he? Oh, well, he was 2. He died when he was 2. Today was our first day back at school, and so like,
they were shell shocked.
So the first thing Jenny says is like, okay, so like Melanie's been asking a lot about death, and she was telling us how she was like really sad that she saw all these dead people and stuff. It's like, here's what happened. Okay, like before you like call Child Protective Services, this is what happened. We went for a walk, ended up through a graveyard, yada yada yada. It's cool. And so we just had to like give the disclaimer today on the first day back at school. Felt a little awkward.
I'm sure. It's a dark way to start off the year.
Yeah, well, 2017 is what it is.
That's true. Well, we just ended this episode talking about Carrie Fisher's death and its effect on the Star Wars saga. So.
And my children.
Yeah. So if you want to join the discussion even after this really like down note for this episode.
You want to talk about dead people?
Yeah, if you just need to like unload,
call Chris Hardwick on 1-800-DEAD LIVE.
Well, you can join the discussion as always on our website, certainpov.com. While you're there, you can check out Patreon. You can share the podcast with fellow nerds that you think will also enjoy a show like this. Tell us, what movies are you looking forward to? Do you think our outlook on DC's upcoming slate is too bleak? Do you think we're too hype on a lot of Marvel's properties? Or are we even too unforgiving on Thanos and Infinity War? Let us know what you think. Go to our website, certainpov.com. Until next week, stay scruffy, my nerf herders.
Thanks for listening to Certain Point of View. Don't miss an episode. Just subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. Head over to certainpov.com.